been a busy week. I wanted to do a video and just kind of check in. It's my daughter's last week of school, her last week of kindergarten. I put her in kindergarten when she was 6 instead of 5. So, yes, I noticed there's been some comments on the videos about how people think I delayed my child by 3 or 2 years or something like that, but no. She's graduating kindergarten at 7, which seemed really weird to me at first, but you know, I was thinking about it when it came time to enroll her into kindergarten, and I had wanted to put her in preschool before kindergarten, but I hadn't been able to afford it back in what, 2019 or whenever it was that she would have been starting. My mind's not working right now. But, so yeah, so instead, or 2018, yeah, I'm sorry. So when she was 5, I put her in preschool instead of kindergarten, and I could have enrolled her in kindergarten, but knowing my daughter, I thought she needed that gift of time. And I think, you know, for me, that was a good decision. For her, that was a good decision. You know, for me, it doesn't make a difference if she'd started kindergarten or preschool. But I just think about some of the issues that kids deal with and stuff, and I think that if she has to graduate at 19, that's not the end of the world. At any rate, so yes, I have flowers because tomorrow is her graduation. So I went to the store and grabbed one of those like mix and match bouquet deals, like 3 for $12 flowers, and I thought she would find that pretty special for a gift. And all this week I have been working on making her cute lunches and ocean themed foods. So that's been fun. But it's also a little bit stressful because it makes the kitchen pretty messy, and like all this extra stuff that I wouldn't usually be having on hand. But it's something that I like to do for her. So yeah. I'm trying to think of what I wanted to talk about. Oh, I went to the grocery store today, but I didn't feel like doing the whole, like, this is what I bought. I didn't buy too much. But, well, I did buy, here's the thing, like, this is what I bought. So, we found out that we really like this Panera Mediterranean lemon salad dressing. And what we have been doing is making pasta salad. I shouldn't say we have been doing it, something that we're going to be doing, because I made some pasta yesterday for her little like ocean themed lunch, like the spinach, is it fusilli? The corkscrew twisty pasta. It's supposed to look like seaweed, and I found this really cute picture online where somebody stuck their baby bell cheese in like this mold, and it was like the exact same mold that we have. It's in like an egg mold and a rice mold. And it looks just really adorable, and they cut like stars out of carrots. So I was like, oh, we could do that. So we did that, and Sophie helped me cut the stars out of the carrots, and it was apparently like a lot of work because she fell asleep. Like halfway through, she was like, I need to go take a nap. I was like, oh, okay. She's not a napping child, so it was really funny. But yeah, so that's been kind of fun. I've been a bit more on track. I'm still having some trouble like skipping meals, which is just, that's like partly ADHD, partly now the medication, and partly diet culture. You know, I've been writing a lot about fat phobia and diet culture, and it's been just really exhausting because I know like I have upset people, I have hurt people, I have stepped on a lot of toes, and I keep going back and thinking like, but am I wrong to say these things? And the uncomfortable thing is that I don't think that I am wrong. I've talked to my nutritionist about it. They read the stories. Like, I'm like, what am I missing? Like, what? And I think what kind of the thing that, like, what one of my other nutritionists and I were talking about was just the fact that diet culture is so thick. We're so used to a diet culture in Western society, at least, since the 70s, it's been, especially hardcore. But it's just so normal. So when we see Will Smith posing with, in his underwear, there's that natural inclination that we applaud him because it's like, oh wow, look at him. He's showing himself unfiltered. He's allowing us to see his his tummy, which has been called pudgy lately, and which he said, even back in 2019 when he had gained some weight, but subsequently lost that weight. His wife had started calling him pudgy and things. We see that, and when we see his message at first, where he's saying, he loves this body that has carried him through the pandemic, and he's just ready to start feeling better. And we hear that, and we think, yeah, like, there's nothing wrong with that. And, if diet culture wasn't such a thing, and fat phobia wasn't such a thing, I would say, yeah, there is nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to feel better and feel healthier. But there was so little context. There's so little context given when most of us say that we want to feel better. Typically, the bulk of the context that we're giving is fat phobia. I mean, if you take pictures of yourself and you're saying that you're in the worst shape of your life and you're sticking out your tummy to show, like, I mean, I don't know how else to say it, because he's sticking out his tummy in kind of like a funny way. It's supposed to be a little bit disarming, and there's a lot that he's just not, like, saying, but it comes across, right? And it comes across that his body is too fat. People, the media has they're pretty much all calling it the dad bod challenge. And it's not just women. It's not just, people who, are non-binary. It's not, just certain subgroups of people who struggle with eating disorders and struggle with body image. I mean, men struggle with this too. And I would argue that men today struggle with it much more. And part of the reason that they struggle more is because we have Will Smith showing off, the fact that he doesn't have defined abs right now. Or at least, when he took the pictures, he did not have defined abs. And there's that messaging that, ooh, he let himself go. He's been unhealthy. He's had too many muffins. And it's very difficult for people to hear that any of that is fat phobic, because they're like, but he just wants to get healthy. And it's like, right, okay. So how much of a tummy are people allowed to have and still be healthy? Does healthy mean having defined abs? It really, like, because we're getting to that point now where we're saying that we can look at your body, and if you don't have defined abs, you aren't healthy. And there's just, like, so much wrong with that. This has been a really hard topic for me, because I don't like knowing that I'm hurting people's feelings. I don't like hearing that, like, I'm triggering people, and I'm just like, this is so frustrating because the truth is, me saying that our focus on weight loss and our focus on health being ultimately about losing weight and defining, abs and things like that, um, I'm not the trigger. I know that people feel like it feels like I'm the trigger because I'm saying that this is fat phobic. And so then they feel that that's like me doing it. But diet culture is the trigger, right? Like diet culture is the thing that's making everybody feel like they must attain a certain ideal to feel like their best selves, to feel like they deserve things, to feel like they are truly trying their best. Because diet culture is like, it may as well be a religion, right? It's this idea that if you are taking care of your body, you will be healthy and like you will reap those rewards of self-discipline and all of these other things. But our picture of what that looks like and our picture of healthy is ableist, it is so narrow. And I'm so sorry because this video is just like full of all of my pauses because it's frustrating, like just trying to explain like why any of this matters. And the thing is, when it comes to fat phobia, like, no, I don't think anybody is immune. I think, I am, just as guilty of being fat phobic. I have so much, inner fat phobia about myself. Because see, the part of the crux of like if you're saying or doing something that is fat phobic, I would say that like the crux of it is this idea like, well, that's okay for you, but I would like die if I looked that way. Okay, that's like kind of, and it comes out in different ways. It's kind of that thing where people are like, well, they look nice. They look nice the way that they are, even though they're fat. But I, would never be happy feeling that way. And I mean, for some of us, it's very subtle. And for others, like, you just get to a point where the subtleties are just like too in your face as well. And you just realize like, oh my gosh, it really is everywhere. Excuse me while I have some water. But yeah, on a personal level, I definitely, I struggle myself with fat phobia because I have spent most of my life on diets. I have done the work to lose more than 100 pounds. The first time that I did that, it was after my divorce, and I went on a raw food program. When I first did raw food on my own, I lost like 50 pounds over the summer. Back like what, man, 2000, 2005, 2006. Ugh, it's okay. I'm terrible with dates today. Just forget the dates. So in my mid late 20s, 26 or somewhere around there, I was still, still obese. I joined a raw food boot camp program online. It was expensive, but my health insurance, well, my money, my FSA account covered it. And I ate 1,000 to 1,200 calories a day of raw food. It included pretty much all fruit with some vegetables and some hemp seeds for a little bit of protein and fat. It was a very difficult diet, but the one of the ways that you got through it was the fact that like you're basically binge eating fruit. You are eating so much you could eat a whole watermelon. I mean, things like that. And yes, the weight dropped off. Part of the program was also exercise. And when you first start out, you had to do like 45 minutes a day of walking, but it quickly ramped up and you had to do 2 hours a day of walking, no breaks. So, I had blisters on my toes. It was the kind of thing that, like, it felt so good at the time to be doing all of that work, and like I felt really proud of myself that I was losing weight, but I was also eating less calories than a toddler eats, and I I wasn't learning how to have a healthy relationship with food. The person who runs the program is basically like, you'll have to live this way for the rest of your life. When you get to maintenance, you could, maybe like add sweet potatoes, like a few cooked foods and stuff, but you would basically have to do the program for the rest of your life. And I don't know, how to explain to people, but like, eating a bag of oranges a day or like a watermelon, things like that with like a couple tablespoons of hemp seeds and carrots, this is not sustainable. So losing weight, so I lost that 50 pounds, and then I went on that program and I lost like what, like another 80. So I had lost, over 100 pounds in less than a year. And I still had a ways to go, and I still didn't know that I had lipedema. I didn't know that I had binge eating disorder either. And or that I had orthorexia, right? Orthorexia is like that obsession with like, is your food healthy? Is your food pure? Like, are there toxins in your food? Are there like antibiotics? It's like I progressively through my life had gotten like more and more paranoid. And then what would happen was that I restricted myself so much out of fear, and then I would go and like binge on, everything. So back then, especially, you didn't say that you had an eating disorder because you were fat, right? And that wasn't like, fat people didn't have eating disorders. That was just not, we didn't talk about that. Most people didn't think that was a thing. Now I have much greater understanding that, for my entire adult life, I've been engaging in all the disordered habits of eating, but our culture, because we're so, in love with this diet culture that promises that, like, no, if you just do the right things and if you're good and you make the right choices, like, you'll have the body you want. Because of that, I made choices to be on these different diets where everyone was applauding me, and they were just like, they were so amazed at my transformation, and giving me all this like great feedback, like I was, a better person because I was losing weight, and because I was showing the world how much I wanted to lose it and how much effort I was willing to put into it. And all it did for me was ruin my teeth, right? Raw food diet, horrible for your teeth, okay? And it made the binge eating issue so much worse, because this is the problem that I have with like practically every diet around. It encourages, if you have any type of problems with binging because maybe you're over restricting, just overwhelmed, emotional eating, binging, that type of, if you have trouble with chronic binging, diets like these just tend to make it so much worse, because you're not learning how to feel okay, on your own, without you know without that mood lift that you get from food. And it's not that there's anything wrong with getting a mood lift from food, because virtually every human does it. I mean, animals, cats, right? Okay. Most people are going to eat for pleasure at least some, part of the time. Think about like weddings and celebrations and parties and things like that. It's not, there's no moral shame in eating for pleasure. Um, what happens, which is problematic for us, is when we rely upon food to take care of like whatever emotions we're having in trying not to feel. um and I know for me, after I had my daughter, um breastfeeding, like nursing, it was really hard and it was exhausting, and I found myself gaining more weight than I had ever gained with the pregnancy. And I was looking for that mood boost of food. And what happens for binge eaters is like you plan the binge and you're really like thinking like, oh, this is going to feel really good. And then you have the binge. Some binges are like off the hook and like compulsive and impulsive, and some binges are pre-planned, I should say. So I started out more of like the pre-planned binge eater, and then as I tried to restrain myself more through diets, that's when I started to have the trouble with the impulsive, compulsive, like I couldn't stop myself from binging, and it just spiraled me down into like shame because you know it was this failure in my life. Like, why can't I get with the program? Why am I suddenly hitting a wall? And yeah, that's been my experience with like massive weight loss. I've lost over 100 pounds twice, but I've had plenty of other times where I've lost 50, 60 pounds. And then of course times when I lost like maybe 30 and stuff like that. But I've always done it with very stringent rules, and I don't know how you can intentionally, intention is like the big thing here. I don't know how you can intentionally lose a ton of weight without being so rigid on yourself. Um, yeah, it's just, I feel so stupid because I'm just saying, I mean, there's just so much in my head that I would like to say about it, but it's difficult. You feel like, like in Zoolander, when like I feel like I'm taking crazy pills, right? Like Will Ferrell's character or something. Like, what is everyone seeing that I'm not seeing? I feel like that. Yeah. Um, I'm grateful because I know, like, from feedback, that it's not all terrible feedback that I've been getting. I know that there are people who really do get it, and they get the fact that the reason, like nutritionists, like you might have heard of Christy Harrison and different people, want to tear down diet culture is because it is killing people. Okay. You hear all of this talk about how like obesity is killing people. Fat phobia is killing people so much more than the obesity. Obesity is like, it's just cruel. It's so cruel because what people are saying basically when they believe that is that, like, you just shouldn't be fat and then you would get better medical care. You just shouldn't be fat and then people wouldn't look at you that way. You just shouldn't be fat and then you wouldn't feel so bad about yourself. You just shouldn't be fat and then you wouldn't get blah 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 blah. I don't know, whatever, like, diseases that people think that fat people get. And it's ironic because that's just not what unbiased studies show. But so much of the work on diets right now is just enormously biased because fat people do not get the medical attention that they need, and they quit going to the doctor, because they know that they're not going to get the proper care. And I mean, it's funny because like in my family, anyone who's like morbidly obese, like they tend to live until their 80s. And the people who are not morbidly obese in my family tend to have other health problems and die younger. And I mean, yeah, we're not seeing the just not seeing like the things that people say we should be afraid of when it comes to obesity. And it's just such a big topic, and I know I'm running out of time because I'm already hitting 30 minutes, and some of that is just because my mind is racing and I have the ums happening. But it's definitely something I want to delve into, but I think maybe I'll delve into some of like the positive things that I'm doing as a fat person who is, who does actually care about her health. Um, Aside from the fact about how, fat phobia and diet culture kills, and it adds, it causes more, eating disorders and more depression among people of all body types. Um, it's also just so sad when you think about the fact that if we were not so fat phobic as a society, so many more people would continue to be active, like from childhood into adulthood. And that's probably something I'm probably going to write a blog post about how much I hated my gym teacher. Because seriously, like we have, situations happening because of fat phobia and because of, this whole idea that if you're physically fit, if you're good at sports or something, that makes you a better and more disciplined person. And what that attitude does, unfortunately, is close people out of, fitness, and it creates, disorder, not just disordered eating, but disordered relationships with their bodies and their movement. Some of us really hate exercise, and I'm going to tell you that a lot of it is psychological, just because of like the way we've been treated for not being, sporty. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up. I could like talk for hours about fat phobia and all of this stuff, and people will probably just be really angry because it's hard. It's hard to talk about. But I'm gonna try and do a better job. We'll see what happens. I hope you have a good week. I will probably try to do some more videos soon. I don't know. I don't know if they're ever going to be better scripted than this, than just me talking. There's a lot of ums, especially today, and especially I'm still adjusting to a new medication and things like that. So we'll see. But I'll try and do another video this week after I get some more writing work done. Have a good day.